Hey, Susquehanna community, welcome to the SCHS Works podcast. We are still in season 1, but this is episode 2, and boy, do I have a treat for you today. I can't say that it is the favorite math teacher in this building because we have a lot of math teachers that we like, but I can say that it is our favorite math teacher in room 232. The man without decorations, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Soden. Glad to be here.
Yeah, last year you moved rooms, right? So you saw there's an opportunity to get into a bigger room, bigger classroom, and you said, you know what, I'll take that room. And so, Mr. Shaftmaster, if you're listening, you were going to get a bigger room, but being the new teacher, Mr. Johnson kind of took priority. And bumped over there. But Mr. Johnson, I was really hoping with the new room we would get some decorations in there.
Hey, I like to show off my personality through my actions, not necessarily the walls of my room. Early in my career, I had all kinds of decorations up, and I found that they continually fell off. So I decided rather than re-putting them up or covering up for the Keystone exam, I just wouldn't have any. I just like to show off my personality that way.
All right. Well, hey, students, if you're listening, here's a challenge for you. I want you to print out as many math memes as you can and take them to Mr. Johnson's room. We're going to create a collage of math memes in Mr. Johnson's classroom. So that's your challenge. Hey, Mr. Johnson, real quick, before we get into the meat and potatoes of today, yesterday was a Powderpuff football game.
All I got to say is touchdown.
Touchdown. So for those of you listening, Mr. Johnson was one of the officials. It came down to the wire. The junior class won on a call that, some individuals would disagree with. Can you just take us through that call and what you saw?
Well, all game long, to be honest with you, the three officials that were working the game, anything that was close, we were awarding the points to. So to keep consistent, that was certainly a close play. And we awarded a touchdown, and upon video review off of Facebook, it is clearly now ruled a touchdown.
Yeah, 100%. We have video evidence of it. I know Mr. Slinkus was a big supporter of overturning the call, but the video evidence shows that the juniors did score that touchdown, and really the seniors had 3 seconds. They had a shot at the end of that game to win the Powderpuff game, and it didn't happen. So I really appreciate you and the other individuals stepping up yesterday to make that happen.
We have a lot of fun doing it, for sure.
I don't think Mr. Parks can talk today.
No, his voice was gone at 12 o'clock for sure.
Yeah, 2 hours of being an MC is quite a bit. All right, Mr. Johnson, you teach math, right?
Yes, sir. Last
year, as in every year, our students take the Algebra Keystone, and I just want to highlight something really quick. So, of all our students that took the Algebra Keystone last year, we had a combined percentage of students that were proficient and advanced, all right? And that was 44% of our students. So that could be 9th graders, 10th graders, the 11th graders. Whoever was taking that Keystone exam in algebra, 44% of our students were proficient or advanced. But let's talk about your 9th graders. The 9th graders that you taught last year, who were taking the Keystone, they just blew it out of the water. I mean, what do you have to say about that?
Those group of kids, they are one of the hardest working bunch of kids that I've taught in my 18 years here at Susquehanna. They were the type of student that you'd tell them once and they would get after it. And they would help each other out. They would ask questions. And it didn't have to be with me. It would be with the person next to them. It would be with their parents. It would be anywhere they can find that information, they would go get it because they had that initiative. They had that willpower. They knew that they wanted to do well, and the results are here.
But you said it was kind of like a community thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can only do so much. I can only lead a horse to water, but I can't make them drink. So if they choose to do it, they have certainly all the resources that they need to be proficient for sure.
All right, hey, so 9th graders, last year's 9th graders, now 10th graders that took algebra last year with Mr. Johnson, typically what we see is we see a large percentage that are proficient, and then we see a small percentage that are advanced. Well, last year, we had 11.5% of our 9th graders they were proficient. And you're like, hey, what's wrong with that? That's really low. Well, what's wrong with that is absolutely nothing. We had 57.7% of those ninth graders advanced. That should be flip-flopped. In any world, that should be the exact opposite. You should have a large percentage that are advanced, a large percentage that are proficient, a smaller percentage that are advanced. Those kids just completely blew it out of the water, and I'm impressed.
So am I. It's just a testament to those students. That's all I can say. Good job to them.
Yeah, hey,
They
keep it
worked
up,
hard.
guys. Keep it up. 10th graders now, you've got your
Big
sights
shoes to
set.
fill.
Absolutely. So, historically though, you as a math teacher, you haven't been that teacher that will absolutely hurt a student if they're struggling in math. Like, what's some advice you have for someone out there that might just be sitting there thinking, my math scores are low. I don't really enjoy math. Like, what do you have to say?
Well, my advice is you got to keep going. You got to keep trying. Making mistakes is a part of the learning process for sure. You're gonna make mistakes, and I hopefully promote that within my class. And I want them to be proud of the work that they did, no matter if it was right or wrong, and learn from those mistakes that they made. I always referred to, babies walking. They always fall when they first start. Riding a bike, you probably fell the first time. We make mistakes. So in math, I want them to try whatever it is they think is right. And then if it doesn't work, then go back and try a different way and try again and again and again. And that's my wisdom for them to just keep at it. Don't give up. And in terms of, slamming a kid, if the first couple quarters aren't well for whatever the reason, whether it was the lack of trying, whether it was something at home that happened, whatever life throws at us, I never wanted to bury a kid. I always gave them that grade that would promote the idea that they still can pass, because math is just a building block. You just build on it. So if they can do it come third and fourth quarter, that means the material I taught in the first and second quarter, they certainly know as well.
Well, I think that's a respectable way of handling it. But I think what you touched on there, and what I love about your classroom and your style, is the fact that you say, maybe as a society we focus on rewarding the outcome when we need to focus on rewarding that effort that we're seeing, because that effort is going to lead to the outcome that we want.
Absolutely.
I love that. All right, so hey, enough about math. We love math, but let's get into meat and potatoes. Today's SCHS Works podcast is about our safety drills that we do here every year. So we have 3 safety drills that are going to be pumped out to the student body throughout this year. And honestly, actually, our first one is going to be Monday, the 18th. And so, Mr. Johnson, go back to your high school years. Did you guys do any kind of safety drills?
Absolutely.
Over at Mountain View,
Yep.
The Eagles. Do you remember what they were like, what you kind of did with those?
Pretty much we hit in a corner if it was a safety drill in our classrooms.
Yeah, we did the same thing at Susquehanna, and that was our generation, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, there's something wrong, there's some kind of a violent situation, everyone turn the lights off, hide in the corner, group together, and be quiet. So that concept was built around protecting people from drive-by shootings out in LA. And somehow it then got spread across the nation, and we've come to realize that's 100% the wrong thing to do. And so, we're probably in year 4 now, maybe even more, of teaching these ALICE principles. So when we talk about ALICE principles, your students, parents, you're listening at home while you're making dinner here. ALICE stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. And the thing about these ALICE principles is it's not you have to do this and then this and then this. It's a grouping of principles where we say you make your own choice in the situation that is presented to you with the information that you have. So I'm going to run down through these really quick. Alert. Hey, if you know that there's possibly danger, get the word out. Get the word out. And within this building, we have quite a few ways to do that. My radio, I can key up the loudspeaker right now, and I can talk to the entire building from wherever I'm at. One call now, I can send out an alert to everyone's cell phones right now. It's something that we can do. Lockdown. Lockdown is barricading, creating barricades. Inform is to continue to communicate with real-time information and in using common language. There are no codes. You think back, for those of you listening that were in this building back in early 2000s, what was it, Sabre schedule? We would make the announcement that there's a Sabre schedule. Do you remember that at all?
I do not. That
Okay.
was before my time.
So when did you start? 2006? All right, so before 2006, this building had a Sabre schedule, which meant there was somebody here that wanted to do harm. You needed to lock the doors, hide in the corner. That's gone. If there is a situation in this building, you're going to hear someone's voice saying, hey, there's somebody here that shouldn't be here, and they're in the main lobby. We're just going to give you that information so you can make those decisions. Counter, as a last resort, is distracting the individual that's there to cause violence. It could be throwing books at them. It could be using the fire extinguisher that's in the classroom. It could be a whole host of things. But then there's also evacuate, and evacuate is to get away from that danger. So, Mr. Johnson, on Monday morning, our building is going to do this tabletop drill. So this first drill that we do every year, we sit down with our students and we just discuss, hey, guys, this is the situation. If there's ever somebody that wants to do harm in the building, this is how we have to handle it. So we review those Alice principles. And then you're going to be sitting in a classroom with quite a few students on Monday morning, and I'm going to make the announcement over the loudspeaker that the first scenario that we want to discuss is what happens if there's an armed intruder in the main lobby. So depending upon the location of the classroom and where you're at, your actions are going to be different. But for you, you're way upstairs at the other end of the hallway. What's your action most likely going to be if we have some kind of an armed individual, an intruder in the main lobby?
Yeah, that's one of the easiest decisions that I would ever have to make. God forbid, we would certainly evacuate as soon as possible, as soon as we found out that was going on. We are certainly as far away as from the main lobby as most classrooms. So yeah, we would immediately exit the building and go to a safe spot, probably off campus in that situation.
Yeah.
So, any of these scenarios, what we would do in my classroom is actually have an adult conversation and, talk to my students as if we're, talking peer to peer or adult to adult and say, hey, what if this actually happens? And, unfortunately, that's the reality that we live in nowadays, that there is a small possibility that, God forbid, it doesn't happen, but we got to be prepared for it if it does.
So have any of those conversations over the last couple of years in your classroom, have they gotten to the point where, you see an impact on this, a negative impact on the students that are sitting there?
Fortunately, no, I have not seen that. But again, I try to keep it light at times. My classroom is up in the air a little bit, so a lot of times we're talking about how we could possibly create a rope to rappel down the windows if it has to be, and some of the guys really get into the conversation there. But reality is, if we need to, we can get out our windows if we have to, if we, obviously we want to go out and exit as quick as possible. But I try to keep it somewhat light, but yet still get the point across on what we actually need to do.
Yeah, and that's what I like to hear, because by no means are we trying to scare anybody. But in life, if you haven't talked about it, if you hadn't considered different alternatives and possibilities, if you're ever faced with that situation, there's a good chance you're going to freeze. So we're trying to avoid that just by having the conversation. And things like, hey guys, what's a secondary egress point? How are you going to get out of this room if we can't go out the main door? And you're saying like, hey, we're going to go out the windows. That's great to think about. Absolutely great to think about. And obviously when you're evacuating, you're not lining up, everybody's puffing their puffers, and you're walking down that hallway neatly. You guys are just getting out. And to get that point across, and the point across to students of, hey, you might be in the bathroom when a situation like this occurs, if it ever did. What are you going to do? You need to know these principles so you can think for yourself and not rely on that adult that's with you. So then, Mr. Johnson, the second situation that we're going to discuss with students on Monday is going to be, hey, what happens if there's an armed intruder upstairs in that main hallway? Now, that's right in your location. How's your response probably going to vary?
Definitely going to change at that point. We're certainly, in my room, we're going to barricade at that point. And again, during the drill, students love to destruct things. So I give them the opportunity to destruct my, nice, neat, clean, decorated classroom, right?
Yeah, decorated, yep.
So they certainly get a kick out of moving all the filing cabinets, moving all the desks, moving everything to block that door.
Okay.
And, in the past, they really take pride in how well or how big our barricade ends up happening, because we usually take pictures and send it to the school. And me personally, I like to be on top in that situation.
Yeah, so that takes us right into the ALICE drill number 2, which will occur on October 16th, where we are going to construct barricades. So typically we turn this into a contest. All right, classrooms, go ahead, build that barricade so that nobody can get through that door. All right, I want to see pictures of it. And then we'll go on SNN a couple days later and we will crown a champion. And honestly, that's why you're here today, Mr. Johnson, because year in and year out, your classroom they dominate. I mean, we have it looks like a volcano, a huge mountain that you stack in front of that door. So that's why you're here.
Again, testament to my students.
Yeah.
They buy in. I love it.
But then they're barricading, and they're not just huddling in the corner. They're spacing out in the classroom.
Spacing out, have objects in their hands ready to fire away. I even let them practice once in a while at me.
At you? Giant snowballs?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Something that's not going to hurt me, but go ahead,
All
fire
right.
away.
All right. And then, in March 28th, we will do our third review. And that ALICE drill back in March, it's really just a confidence builder, and it's just a review of the principles where we go back down through. But I think the first two are the most important: teaching the principles, going through discussing some scenarios, and then actually building those barricades. So those are the ALICE principles, and obviously there is a lot more that goes into it, but we just can't discuss it publicly here. We have an all hazards plan that is literally, I would say, probably close to 500 pages long, if not more, and it covers absolutely everything, but it's just not something that is appropriate to talk about on a public forum like this. But I think it's important that we let parents know, hey, this is something that's occurring. We are doing these drills. We are talking to our students about this. So they're probably going to come home and have a conversation at home about it too. But what you said is, hey, we try to give them the information and make it light and not make it too heavy, and make it a positive experience, is a good thing. So as we talk about these ALICE drills, it's a side of society that it's a shame that we have to do this, but it's part of life, and it's part of growing up, in 2023, that our students are faced with. Our students are faced with a lot of challenges. If I could get rid of cell phones, I would in an instant. But that's probably going to be another podcast or 3, in where you guys all tell me I'm nuts, but I think cell phones are creating problems nonstop for our students. So let's talk about some good things, though. Let's close this up.
Absolutely.
This weekend, homecoming events. If I recall correct, you were in the parade last year.
Sure thing.
What did you do in the parade last year?
I got the privilege of pulling the PEP band last year.
Yeah, let's talk about the PEP band. They sounded amazing.
They did an awesome job at the PEP rally yesterday. What an atmosphere that they created in the gymnasium. It was awesome.
It really is amazing how they create that atmosphere. And here's one of the things. They don't know how good they are. Mr. Woke doesn't know how good they are. Because everywhere I go, I hear people talk positively about them, and I always try to give that feedback to Mr. Woke and to the PEP band, and every time I give that, they're like, really? Like, they're surprised. Guys, you rock. Like, just accept it. I love the fact that you're modest, but I mean, it was impressive. So, homecoming events this weekend. We've got the parade. The parade lineup at 6 o'clock, 6:15. We are starting off on Friday night. The bonfire is directly going to follow. Seniors, make sure you have that lumber there. You're making me a little nervous. All right, you've got to have that bonfire built, and it cannot be a puny one. Mr. Reshevsky's first bonfire needs to be huge. I mean, we need to get it to the size to where he questions whether or not this should continue. We can't do a puny little bonfire that I see like up in Vestal, New York. That's the size of like a 10 by 10 pallet, and that's about it. So seniors, get that bonfire rocking, get it built, but be safe. And then obviously we have the game and the dance on Saturday. So I hope to see you guys there.
Take down those Chiefs.
Going after those Chiefs. Rumor has it we've got a prediction going on in SNN tomorrow morning, and we've got some individuals in this building that are very disappointed with some individuals who have made predictions that have us losing, because that's not going to happen. We've got faith in our guys, especially with the cheerleaders behind them, and especially with the band. So hey, Susquehanna, it's been fun. We will see you on the next episode of SCHS Works Podcast. Remember, work is here. See you later.